We've got an hour.
What's an hour?
Oh, we could
What's
reach...
100 miles? We'd never be able to keep that store, Amy. They'd come after us and we'd have to run again as long as we live.
There are some very famous political allegories in cinema. High Noon has been read as an allegorical representation of the Red Scare, showing a decent, conscientious man hunted down by a vengeful posse. On the Waterfront has been read as a very different take on the same era, made by a man shunned by his Hollywood colleagues for having given names to McCarthy's committee. Snowpiercer is the story of armed class struggle set in a dystopian future, in which people at the very back of the train have to fight their way to the front. Despite my admiration for these films, I have a different film that stands out as my own favorite political allegory. It's Edward Yang's 1991 film, Brighter Summer Day. The film shows the story of a student who gets placed in a night school, a worse option than the regular day school, which leads to his encounters with gangs and also girls. To understand this film as an allegory, we would need to go back in time, at least to 1949. The nationalist Kuomintang, facing defeat at the hands of the communists in the Chinese Civil War, planned an exodus to the island of Taiwan to set up what was intended to be a temporary capital in the city of Taipei. The exile has become a permanent one, as China and Taiwan have pursued different paths towards economic and political development. This film shows Taiwan in the 1960s, a decade after the exodus to Taiwan, when the spirit of the Chinese Civil War was still alive. By this time, though, the hope for a return to the mainland had begun to fade. The film shows our student fighting to survive in the new night school surroundings, much the same way the grown-ups struggle against injustice in this new society. This is a world of teenaged hoodlums and corrupt officials. In much the same way that kids fight amongst each other in violent but ultimately impotent ways, the island itself too is governed by a government that is not above torturing its own people to no specific end. What Edward Yang dramatizes is Taiwan in the aftermath of the Exodus. Exiled to Taiwan, the nationalist Kuomintang built up a one-party state with one specific goal in mind: to take back the mainland. To that end, the government created a society that was thoroughly imbued with a military ethos. Kids even marched to school as if they were in the military. There's an excellent PBS documentary about this, which I've linked below. Yang's film goes beyond narrating a story from these times. It shows the spirit and feeling of exile, of a people out of place in their new surroundings. This is what the film excels at. No one is where they should be in this movie. Kids roam the school buildings at night, and they run away to the film studio. This is the vantage point from which people enjoy the concert. This kid sleeps inside a closet in a Japanese-style home. Yang shows a people who are exiled not only from their homeland, but also from their sense of history. In this movie, all the characters will fail, morally and socially. Ultimately, we are asked to understand the failings of these characters through our understanding of their displacement and through our awareness of the injustice that surrounds them. They are victims of a strange twist of fate that drove them away from their natural destinies. We see a very different Taiwan in the news these days. It can seem as if the days of exile have largely been forgotten.
身为台湾人，所以我们要用自己的名号去全世界，让全世界知道我们是一个台湾是一个主权独立的国家。
Meanwhile, in the mainland, People's Republic of China has only become wealthier and stronger. meaning that the so-called fight back to the mainland is unlikely to ever happen. Edward Yang's Brighter Summer Day shows that there was once a very different time. A time when the wounds were still raw, and this new Taiwanese society was just beginning to form.